Welcome back to Breakdown. SEC versus the Big Ten. Today is December 27th, 2023. JJ, you ready to talk some SEC Big Ten football?
You know, it's a Wednesday, so why not?
All right, the college football playoff is right around the corner. Washington, a soon-to-be Big Ten team, playing Texas, a soon-to-be SEC team.
Yeah, so
go ahead.
I was going to say, so that's like the JV matchup then, right?
You know what? I'll let you take that credit. I don't want to go there. And then the other one, Michigan and Alabama. Let's start off, JJ, with Washington, Texas.
The JV game always went first, so let's do it.
Washington is undefeated, yet they are a 4-point dog in that game. Is that
just 4?
Last I saw was 4.
Okay, open 4.5. So
the last I saw was 4.
So some money has came in on Washington.
So do you agree with that spread?
Well, I don't want to spoil it, but I 4.5 did seem pretty substantial for a team with Texas's resume versus a team with Washington's resume.
Which team is more motivated? I mean, Washington has been there before. Texas has never been to the college football playoff before. This is their first time.
Yeah, well, Washington was there before, but they were there with a different coach, completely different coaching staff, different players. Nobody that's currently associated with Washington has been there. So I think they have just as much motivation as Texas does.
Okay. These two teams played last year at the end of the season in a bowl game. Who won that bowl game?
It was Washington. I know it was Washington. I was just trying to remember. Was that the Alamo Bowl?
It was in Texas. I think it was the Alamo Bowl.
Okay, yeah, I know Washington won that one. Kalen DeBoer got the best of Steve Sarkisian in the first matchup against Steve Sarkisian's old school. He used to head coach Washington.
Yeah. So, are you looking forward to the game?
Oh yeah, I mean it's a college football playoff game.
While you call it the JV game, it's actually the second game on New Year's Day.
Absolutely is.
In New Orleans.
And geographically, it makes the most sense. I mean, you have Texas and Washington.
True.
One West Coast team in Texas, which is, definitely further west than either Michigan or Alabama.
Okay. I'm looking forward to the game. You want to give your picks on it now before we move on to the real Big Ten SEC game?
Yeah, well,
Is there more you want to talk about? You want to talk about the playmakers, the quarterbacks, or?
Well, there's a lot to talk about. You could talk about Penix versus Ewers. You could talk about, Roman Duzier. Maybe he should have won the Heisman. Was he the best receiver in the country over
Marvin?
Yeah, Neighbors and LSU and Marvin Harrison Jr. and OSU. There's a lot that you can talk about, but I mean, just to preview it, I'm going to ride with Michael Penix Jr. I know this is going to be a huge shock for you and all of you that might have listened. I'm going to ride with the Washington Huskies and Michael Penix Jr., the former Indiana Hoosier head coach, or he was this offensive coordinator when he was there, Kalen DeBoer, but the former quarterback and the former coach.
So when the coach left, offensive coordinator left Indiana, he took his quarterback with him.
He did, and turned him into a Heisman candidate. Almost won it. Came in second place this year.
All right. Jay, I'm gonna ride along with you. I'm gonna take Washington in that game. I will easily take those points, but I think Washington wins this outright. Personally, that's how I roll.
Well, what happens if Quinn Ewers gets hurt? He has been injury prone throughout his career. He's not going to have his normal backup, Malik Murphy. He won 2 games.
He'll have Manning.
He will have Arch. He'll have Arch. He'll have a Manning, but
okay.
Just thought I'd mention that just in case. The transfer portal, the window makes it so, if you're very, very successful.
So the backup quarterback is booked.
He had to book it, and he transferred to Duke. That's where he went.
That's right. You're right. Okay, JJ, let's move on to the other game, the Rose Bowl. Pasadena, California. Alabama and Michigan. JJ, is this the best ever first-round matchup in college football playoff history?
That's a really good question.
Let me answer that. No, you answer it. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to have to say the answer to that would be no.
Okay. What was it better? Why is it not the best?
I'm not the biggest Ohio State guy out there, but, I remember Cardale Jones. I remember 2014 Ohio State. I remember them playing against Alabama.
Beating them.
beating them pretty badly before beating Oregon.
I'm gonna say this is the best.
Okay.
And the reason I say it because it's Michigan, it's Alabama.
And that's better than Ohio State, Alabama.
It is now because
Harbaugh.
because of Harbaugh.
Yeah, the controversy.
Yeah. I just think it's a big game. I think it's the best. But that, we'll see how it ends up being played. That Ohio State Alabama game was not that much of a game. To me. But JJ, there's a lot.
Alabama was favored in that one.
There's a lot to talk about. And Michigan is favored in this one.
Yeah, a slight favorite, 1.5 point.
1.5 point favorite. Which is a bit better storyline, JJ? Nick Saban comes back and wins after a rough start, or Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverine fight off all the naysayers and all the negativity and comes out and win. Which is the better storyline?
Well, the better storyline, I think, is obviously Michigan. Michigan hasn't won since '97, where they split the championship with Nebraska. And they have been kind of, thought to be like, the villain of this season ever since the cheating scandal came out with Connor Stallions. So I think, they're a huge draw. They're huge ratings, and there'd be a new audience. Alabama, Nick Saban's won how many at Alabama?
6 at Alabama, 1 at LSU.
Okay, just 6. I thought he had won 7 at Alabama, but okay. So
I thought it's 6.
There are a lot of rumors that this might be Nick Saban's last year. Had he, it's a good story for him to win in his last, his final going and right off into the sunset.
Okay.
But I think a better storyline would be Michigan. I think if this was a championship game, it might be a little bit different.
Okay.
But because it's just a first round game, I think Michigan advancing, because even if Michigan were to lose in the there's going to be a lot of people rooting against Michigan. But
they're America's team, according to Harbaugh.
Yeah, there's a lot of things according to Harbaugh that you might not want to listen to him.
Jersey, you know what? I believe that one of these teams is a team of destiny. Michigan had to struggle through everything, and they just kept on winning and winning and winning and winning.
Well, what did they have to struggle through?
They had to struggle through their coach being out, not on the field.
That's
for 6 games.
Yep.
They struggled through all the naysayer, all the talk. They just kept on keeping on. Alabama, they struggled losing to Texas. Was it the second game of the season or third? Second, I think. Benching their quarterback. Everybody's writing off Nick Saban saying Alabama will lose 3-4 games this year. And now they're both there. One of these teams is a team of destiny.
Yeah, this is inarguably, to me, Nick Saban's best coaching year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna tell you something that Nick Saban did that really increased my thought on him as far as coaching.
Okay. What did he do?
He went out, JJ, after the regular season was over, and he hired an assistant, George Hilo.
Is he must be a recently fired assistant from a specific Big Ten school.
He was an unemployed coach. Previously coached, was it the linebacker at U of M?
I believe that's correct. I believe that was the position group.
And he ended his season with Michigan back in February, before this current season started. Nick Saban hired an assistant after the regular season is over. Would he have done that if they were not playing Michigan? Would he have hired Hilo?
It's a really interesting question. I think the answer to that, no one can really answer it for certain. Okay. Only he can know.
In your mind, JJ, will Hilo make a difference? Will he provide information that's going to help Alabama?
I do believe that he will provide information that will help Alabama. I do believe that he will make a difference. Will he make a significant enough difference? That's the question.
How do you rate that hire by Nick Saban?
I think, if there aren't any staff limits, you have it in your budget. Alabama isn't really cash poor as it pertains to athletics department. I think it's not the worst way you could spend however much money you had to pay on.
Okay, JJ. We're gonna move on. We're gonna move on.
Probably he didn't hire Connor Stallions.
Oh man, I ain't gonna go there. JJ, both these teams are built to win a national championship. Yes or no?
Yeah, they're well. Yes and no. I mean,
Yes and no.
I think they're the two best teams left in the field. But I'm not sure if they match up the best.
Okay.
I think. I mean, Michigan is built in the trenches. I'm not sure if they announced the Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line.
I don't.
This
I
year?
haven't heard.
I know they're in the running. They've won the past two. I mean, they would be the
2
first
years in a row.
three-time winner. They'd be the first program to win it 3 times in general, since it's been awarded. So, I mean,
So I mean, if you look at the way Michigan built their offensive line, their defensive line, their
absolutely
skilled players.
And what did Kirby Smart say before the TCU game last year? What was their mantra? Their rally cry was "Big people move little people."
Okay, and Michigan got big people.
Michigan does have some big people.
They got big people. So,
Offensive line, defensive line, right? They have Will Johnson in the secondary.
and we know how Georgia's big people moved TCU's little people last year.
Yeah, they moved those people.
So
They certainly did.
So like Michigan may be doing the thing. JJ, which team has the most 5 stars? Michigan or Alabama?
Well, that's not going to be Michigan.
Correct.
Yeah.
Does 5 stars, did that mean anything?
It would mean something if this was a different sport. But in football, you can coach them up and you can develop the way Michigan has developed. I don't think it means that much to me. What do you think it means?
It definitely means something.
Okay.
But it doesn't determine the winner of the game.
Well,
But it means something.
I've heard other people believe that you need to have a certain threshold of blue chip players to win a championship. You need to be a top 15 recruiting. Historically, the only teams that have won championships throughout the past 25 years have been teams that have finished in the top 15 for recruiting year in, year out. And Michigan, on average, has done that. So they just sneak in. They just sneak in under that threshold. So I think, they're not hanging out with Ohio States and the Alabamas and the Georgias when it comes to, college football recruiting. They're not even up there with Oregon. They're back there with Penn State. But they are just good enough. They do make the cutoff. So it's like the Mendoza line in baseball, I guess.
Okay. A couple of questions I want to ask you.
Yeah.
If you had to go to battle, if you were going into battle and your life depended on it, would you rather go with Jim Harbaugh or would you rather go with Nick Saban?
I'd rather go with Jim Harbaugh.
Okay.
I mean, because I would think he's a little bit more crazy. I think he's probably a little bit more loyal. I think Nick Saban is more likely to win the battle, but I think you're likely to. I think out of loyalty, Jim Harbaugh is more likely to support you the entire way, or maybe not loyalty. Maybe that's not the right adjective. Whatever adjective you want to use to describe him.
Well, JJ, another question. If you were going into battle, your life depended on it, would you rather go into battle with J.J. McCarthy or Jalen Milroe?
That's a good question. Both of them, I don't think either one of them. I know J.J. McCarthy's a 20-year-old true junior, and I know Jalen Milroe, I believe, just graduated, but I think he's only in his 3rd year in the program as well. I think he's in his 3rd year, redshirt sophomore. Jalen Milroe finished higher than J.J. McCarthy in the Heisman voting. But he did get benched in the USF game. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
McCarthy has more experience,
He does have more experience.
more game experience.
He kind of tailed off production-wise at the end of the season, in which Jalen Milroe kind of skyrocketed. In the championship game against Georgia, even against Auburn, he was putting the team on his back for the most part.
If I'm going into battle, JJ,
I'm taking Milroe.
Same here, me too. So we kind of agree on coach and quarterbacks. We will do that. But JJ, Michigan's undefeated. Alabama's a 1-loss team. Who's the most battle-tested team? The more battle-tested team?
Well, I would say the team that, just beat Georgia and the team that had to play against another team that's currently in the college football playoff in Texas. I would say Alabama's more battle-tested, but I'm not sure if losing to Texas by 10 at home is necessarily, a test that they passed. But they certainly are more tested than Michigan.
Okay. Everywhere you go, you hear the people saying, well, let's talk a little bit about Michigan. Michigan has all the stats. They have all the stats. The fewest penalties in football, less than 3 per game. They let you know they're not gonna beat themselves. They're number 1 in scoring defense. They're number 2 in total defense. They're number 2 in turnover margin. They've had 2 turnovers in their last 10 games. They're number 4 in passing efficiency. They got all the stats, but they're missing something.
What are they missing?
They're missing an edge rusher. They're missing an elite edge rusher. And my question, JJ, is Georgia sacked Miro 4 times in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Will Michigan be able to make Miro uncomfortable? And Miro was getting killed early in the season back there.
Yeah.
Will Michigan be able to make him uncomfortable?
I mean, I think Michigan has the ability to make Miro uncomfortable. Michigan has one of their strengths is their secondary play, and that does not and the complementary Alabama's receivers is not one of their strengths. Miro has to make plays when the play breaks down a lot of time. He has to run around because his receivers cannot create separation on their own. And I think that Michigan, when a lot of that, I think they'll have the ability to get home a little bit better. I think there's a reason Miro took so many sacks. I don't think Alabama's offensive line is anything to write home about. I think it's adequate.
You're right. Like I said, Georgia sacked their quarterback sacked Miro 4 times. But Jay, I'm going to disagree with you on one thing, though, and that's Alabama's playmakers.
Okay.
I think Jeremy Burton,
Yeah.
Isaiah Bond. Bond made the big catch against Auburn.
He did.
And plus he made some plays in that Georgia game.
Yeah, he made some plays. I believe in Burton. I mean, he's the guy that you have to focus on.
Okay, I agree with you about Burton being better, but I'm not going to sleep on Bonds.
I'll nap on him a bit.
Okay, I like their playmakers, but Michigan, their defense, their defensive line is what scares everybody. Supposedly, they got Mason Graham, Chris Jenkins, Kenneth Grant. Each of them were all Big Ten.
Yeah, Kenneth Grant. Yeah.
I mean, so Michigan, they got the stats, they got the players. I'm not so much about their edge rushers, their defense. But this is my question to you, JJ. Their defense is so great. Number 1 in scoring defense. They play great teams. I mean, you said Alabama was more battle tested. Michigan did play Penn State and Ohio State, but to me, their stats are. I'm not buying their stats. I mean, the stats are what they are. They say the numbers are what they are, and it's, the statistics. But they also say statistics are for losers. How good is Michigan's defense?
Oh, it's good. It's definitely better than Alabama's. I don't buy in Alabama's defense. I know they have Kool-Aid McKinstry and a pretty decent secondary, but I don't.
Okay.
I think Michigan's defense is very legit. I think the tape doesn't lie. I think Kenneth Grant's movement doesn't lie. At that size, I think that they're going to be incredibly disruptive against Alabama. So
Okay.
I think the answer to that is very, very good is Michigan's defense.
Will Alabama be forced to play its best game of the year if they want to win this game?
Yeah, and this is the time that all of the teams should be trying to be playing their best games of the year.
Can Michigan get by without playing their best game this season? If they play like they played against Ohio State or Penn State, can they beat Alabama?
Of course they can.
Okay.
Alabama almost lost to an Auburn team that lost by more than 3 touchdowns to a New Mexico State team at home the week prior. Alabama is not. I'm not impressed by Alabama. I think this is Nick Saban's greatest coaching accomplishment. I think this is magnum opus for sure.
Okay.
But Yeah, I mean, Michigan is the better team. They're favored for a reason. I think Michigan's going to win the game.
Okay. Oh, you answered that question before even that. Okay. We know Michigan got, like I said, they got the stats. Their playmakers, Crom, 24 touchdowns.
Yeah, Quorum has 24. The touchdown in every single game.
Their Michigan's playmakers are better than Alabama's playmakers to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty close, but I would say Michigan's playmakers are. I would give them a slight edge. I know Roman Wilson hasn't, and Cornelius Johnson have been a little silent as of late. They've just been running the ball, but they've been running the ball because no one's made them not. No one's been able to stop them. It's kind of like the Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan, that one rhetoric or whatever, where they're talking about how Phil Jackson ran the same play 5 times in a row. Michael Jackson, he called timeout. And he was like, "Man, why do you keep running the same play?" He's like, because the other team can't stop it. So right now, I don't think Alabama has the horses to be able to stop Michigan. I don't think they're equipped.
From running the ball.
I do not think they
passing
can.
the ball.
Well, definitely running the ball. I don't think that they can. I don't think they have a chance to stop Michigan in that aspect. But passing the ball, I do think Kool-Aid McKinstry. I do think Alabama's defensive secondary is a little bit overrated.
Let me ask you this. Will the Alabama team be the best team that Michigan would have faced this season?
No.
Okay, let me ask you this other question then. Will the Michigan team be the best team that Alabama would have faced this season?
That's really difficult to answer that. I think Georgia might still be the best team that Alabama faced, even though they beat them, pretty handily. I think I think matchups make fights in a little bit, and I just in some ways, and I think Michigan is more equipped to beat Alabama than maybe Georgia might have been, but I don't know if they would have been as equipped to beat Georgia, if that makes sense.
Okay, what's the best offense, Michigan or Alabama?
I mean, I haven't really had to see a lot from Michigan's offense as of late. I'm gonna go with Michigan.
Okay. I will go with Alabama just based on their quarterback, personally. I think he can beat you with his legs, with his arms. To me, there's no doubt that Jalen Milroe will be the wild card in this game. If Michigan can make him uncomfortable, and you said that they would, Michigan should win.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? If they make him uncomfortable, and he get out of that uncomfortable, like running down the field, it could be pretty difficult for Michigan. But JJ, I think I've brought up all the issues that I want to bring up. I was going to say it's time to pick a winner, but are there any other issues that you want to bring up before I let's give you my winner?
No, I mean, I think Jalen Milroe is a little bit more dynamic than J.J. McCarthy, but I think J.J. McCarthy has all the tools to do the same thing. I think he can beat Alabama with his legs and his feet.
Which team has more speed, overall speed?
That's a good question.
On the offense and then on the defense?
That's a good question. I'm going to go with Michigan on offense and Michigan on defense.
Okay. Hey, they say if you don't have speed, you're chasing speed. So Alabama going to be chasing some speed come Monday, is what you're telling me.
I mean, I think Milroe might be a little bit more faster and a little bit more dynamic than J.J. McCarthy, but other than that,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna tell you why I think Alabama is going to cover the 1.5.
Do you think they're gonna cover the 1.5?
I'm gonna tell you why I think they're gonna cover. Number one, George Hilo, the hiring of the assistant George Hilo. I think because of Jalen Milroe, because of Nick Saban, I think because I don't think Michigan's offense is elite. They struggled against Iowa in the bowl game offensively. Okay. They had a special teams touchdown and 2 drives that went a total of 13 yards in that game.
Because Michigan sat on the ball because the final score was 29-0. They covered in that game.
Right, and I'm just giving you my reason why I think Alabama's going to.
Why would you put anything on tape? But
And the other reason I think, in addition to cover, I think Alabama wins flat out. So You heard it from me. That's my pick. I've gotten Washington against Alabama in the championship game. JJ, you have Washington against
I have Washington against Michigan.
in the championship game. We'll pick a winner for that when we get there. If both are out, no, it might not even be the teams that we pick. Maybe other teams.
Maybe it'll be Texas.
Who knows?
Maybe it'll be Texas versus Georgia. Maybe they'll just have Georgia sub in, tag
You know,
team in for one.
It might even be Texas against Alabama. One more game.
Why not?
One more game. But JJ, let's move on. You got time for a little additional conversations?
Yeah, we can talk a little bit of what's been going on around the college football landscape.
Well, let's stick with Michigan. Jim Harbaugh. He right now they're negotiating a new contract, Mr. Harbaugh. The rumor is that new contract has it in the clause that says no NFL, a no NFL clause. Tell me about Jim Harbaugh's future, and if he leaves, stay or whatever. Just give me your take on Harbaugh's future.
I mean, I think, he'll probably be the coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm sorry. He'll probably be the coach of the Los Angeles Chargers next year.
Back in California.
Yeah, I think that's what his future lies with.
And if he is there, who's coaching Michigan?
That's a good question. I mean, maybe it's going to be Strone Moore.
The rumors are that guy in Louisiana going to be headed this way.
Well,
right?
yeah, Brian Kelly, I think his agent has made that clear, but that might just be so he can get a little bit of raise. He did just have a Heisman-winning quarterback on offense.
If you're Brian Kelly, would you leave LSU to come to Michigan?
Well, you just left that area. I mean,
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. He's very familiar with the area of Michigan, Indiana, Ohio. He was Cincinnati's head coach. He won 2 championships for Grand Valley State. He was Central Michigan's head coach. But most famously, yes, he was Notre Dame's most recent head coach.
Notre Dame, what, 2 hours probably less than 2 hours from Ann Arbor.
South Bend, I have no idea how far it
In
is.
the
I've
neighborhood,
never been.
I'm going to say between an hour and a half and 2 hours.
How far away is it from Chicago?
Notre Dame?
South Bend, yeah.
About an hour and a half.
Yeah. Not bad to be, an hour and a half both ways between.
So,
Ann Arbor
which is
Chicago.
the most coveted coaching position? LSU, Michigan.
LSU, I mean, Michigan doesn't have the stringent entry standards that Notre Dame has. You don't have to take calculus to get into Michigan. They can sneak some guys
Time out.
But it's a lot easier to sneak guys into LSU than it is to sneak them into Michigan. I think
Which is the most coveted coaching position?
Well, I would argue that
not necessarily which is the best place to win. Which is the most coveted position? Which has more clout?
I think it depends. I think we're not in a. I think Jim Harbaugh has more clout than Brian Kelly. I think he gets more page clicks and more views, but I don't think that's because he's the head coach at Michigan. I think it's because he's Jim Harbaugh. I don't think that we're in an era where that really matters. I think it's easier to win at LSU. They've won 3 championships since Michigan's last won.
And some people say with subpar coaches, with the exception of Nick Saban.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely Nick Saban would be excluded from that. But Ed Orgeron is not on the same plane.
And so is, God, I can't think of the guy from Michigan who coached LSU to eat the grass, man, guys. Anyway.
Yeah, I know you're talking about Kansas is, what's his name, Lynn?
Yeah.
Lynn or...
Went with Oklahoma first and then went to Kansas, but it doesn't matter. But what's the likelihood that Brian Kelly will be at Michigan?
I mean, it depends on the... I think you wouldn't leave LSU for Michigan. I think LSU is more fertile for the most part. But, I mean, LSU is a very unique place. And he is not... I mean, he's definitely a carpetbagger. He tried to assimilate into he might his path to assimilation might not be going the way he likes it. So he might want to return to more familiar territory in Michigan.
Okay.
I think they're comparable jobs. I think there are a few jobs that are on the same tier. I think LSU and Michigan are on the same tier. And if you want to leave LSU and Michigan's going to open, and you can't get the Alabama job, you don't want to go to Alabama, you don't want to wait for that. I could see that. That's a feasible option as well.
At LSU, he got a new competition in Texas, not far away from his hometown from Baton Rouge. And then there's College Station, Texas A&M, Alabama. I mean, I don't know. I kind of think Michigan is a more prestigious job. That's my take on it. But
There are a few jobs that are on either tier, Michigan or LSU.
okay, I think location matters for me, and I'd rather be in Baton Rouge any day than to be in Ann Arbor. But that's just me. JJ, let's move on. College realignment.
Mm-hmm.
Florida State is mad, and they ain't taking it no more.
Yeah, I mean, they should be mad at their former selves for signing a contract for such a long period of time with such an insane buyout.
Well, they're mad that they can't get out of the ACC. They're
Yeah.
mad that they went undefeated and got ignored when it came to time for the college football playoff. They talked about how the ACC is undervalued, and they want to get into something where it's more valuable. Would they go, if you were Florida State, would you want the Big 10, Big 12, or SEC?
Well, I think they would want the SEC, but I think the SEC has already made it clear that they're not interested in Florida State at this time. So, I think while their preference might have initially been the SEC, they have natural rivalries with Florida. Florida there. Georgia is not far from Tallahassee either. South Carolina. There's a lot of schools in the region, but I think, Michigan makes as much sense. What does not make sense is to leave the ACC for the Big 12.
Okay. Well, you mentioned Florida and Florida State. The Florida legislature years ago passed a law that made both these schools have to play each other, because for a while they were not playing each other. Maybe 15, 20 years ago they had to start back playing each other. So even if they did join a different conference, they still gonna be required to play Florida every year. Florida State, though, they are just mad. They mad at SMU. They didn't want SMU. They didn't want Cal. They didn't want Stanford to come to the ACC.
Well, that might be what gets them out of the...
I agree.
Yeah.
We're on the same page.
Yeah.
We're on the same page. That might what get them out of the ACC is the fact that they brought in those 3 new schools. And, Florida State is mad. Does Florida State have a righteous indignation?
I mean, they signed the contract, so that's that's going to be, it depends on the judge that they get. I mean, it depends on what precedent they want to set. On one hand, you sign the contract, and that's a pretty stiff argument to argue against. But on the other hand, we are in the wild west of college football. We're in a brave new world. We're in a very different landscape when they originally signed it, and the damages might not exactly align with what they would have to pay. So in that respect, I don't know. It's tough.
Before we get out of here, JJ, I want to talk really quickly. Dylan Raiola. You know him?
I don't know him personally. I know of him, though. I know he's going to probably be playing for Nebraska. He's probably going to be starting at quarterback for Nebraska next year. He
was the quarterback originally committed to, the number 1 quarterback in the high school recruiting class?
Number 8 player in the country, number 1 quarterback.
Number 1 quarterback, originally committed to Georgia. Flipped over from Georgia to Nebraska. But strangely enough, his uncle is an assistant at Nebraska. His uncle was making $173,000 a year. They upped his contract to $500,000 a year.
$500,000 goes a long way in Lincoln, Nebraska.
So he's going to go and be playing with his uncle. Now, I had a couple of nephews who played college football at CMU.
No, okay.
Now, hypothetically, if I were coaching at Arkansas and Arkansas was going to give me a raise that increased me from $175,000 to $500,000, would my nephews have come to Arkansas so that I could get that increase?
That depends. You'd have to have nephews a little higher rated than I think the ones that you had. But, if that situation, that Dylan Raiola will not have been the first one to play for a family member.
That's true. But I just found it interesting.
Well, we're living in a day of NIL, so he can make his own money too.
That's true. But you didn't want to help his uncle. But what's really interesting, they only extended his uncle Donovan to the end of next year. end of 2024, December 31, 24. That his contract runs out, and they probably, I mean, I don't know, but that was surprising. They should have made it a 3-year deal, if you ask me.
You think so? But there's this thing called a transfer portal that exists. So I would make it a 1-year deal too.
All right, JJ, we about out of here, but remember, you heard it here first. Alabama against Washington. WPS, Woo Pig Suey.
Yeah, and it's too bad about the NFL season ending so early, But congrats to the Detroit Lions on winning their first.
That's right, NFC North.
Yeah, winning their first division in 30 years.
Don't mention the Pistons, though, JJ. Let's get out of here.
All right.
Let's get out of here. Peace, love, and blessing.